My name is Lisa O, and I'm an emotional intelligence teacher, consciousness coach, and creator of Pure Affirmations card decks. This podcast is inspired by the healing path, and it is for anyone seeking help, hope, and humor in their healing journey. On this episode of Keep a Light Heart, we're joined by Nina Kathrin. Nina is an intuitive artist who paints using frequencies. So I created this podcast because I wanted a show where I could feature different practitioners around the world and have them teach us a tool or technique and how we can keep a light heart. Before we begin, I'd love to read a passage from The Healing Path by Anthony William on how to keep a light heart. The term lighthearted is a powerful term. Those are powerful words. Keep a light heart. It's very, very powerful because what it does is it shifts soul damage. It shifts heart damage. It shifts information that's been inside your body for years that we hold on to because as we go along the way, we break a little bit. We crack and we break and we get scraped up and a little beat up along the way in life. And we hold on to all these little things. We could call it baggage. That's a word we can use. But we hold on to all these different little things and we carry them, and the load gets bigger and bigger as we go along. And a sense of humor and keeping a light heart helps to drop some of that. I would even say, I'm going to keep a light heart today. I would say every single day, I'm going to keep a light heart today. I'm going to build upon my humor. I'm going to keep a light heart. And then you drop all those little pieces that you've held on to, all those different things that you've gathered along the way from being scraped and bruised and tattered and pushed and everything else around that. We hold on to all these. Let it go. Let some of these go, and each day you say, I'm going to keep a light heart today. I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to get upset every minute. And keep a sense of humor. So I just wanted to share that with everyone to know what the inspiration was for this podcast. And so now I'd love to talk to you, Nina, and find out a little more about what is intuitive art.
To me, intuitive art is about connecting to the divine and co-creating with it, co-creating with God, co-creating with the angels, whilst your heart is really open, like really wide open to receive and to let that high energy flow through. And sometimes we have such high expectations of this process, right? But really what it takes for me, or what it is to be playful, to allow ourselves to have fun, to be open again, like the heart wide open, and just to trust and just be in the moment. I think that is, to me, what intuitive art is. And of course, there's so many different pieces to it. For me, intuitive art also means, for example, things like working in the frequencies that I feel are really helpful for like a painting to be seen and to be radiating. And so sometimes I put Anthony quotes onto my canvas before I paint it, or like I write the word light, or I paint themes and subjects that I do feel connect me with that divine essence. And I guess that can be a little bit different for everyone because we all have different flavors and different types and all of that beautiful variety. But for example, I often paint my dreams or connect with spirit animals that step forward for me, or just anything that I feel spirit is kind of like pulling my attention towards. I feel that is also something that comes into that whole intuitive painting process. Yeah.
Did you study art in school, or did you learn how to do this on your own?
I totally did not do anything regarding art on a kind of like on an educational basis. It's all self-taught. And it's really just me exploring, having fun with it. I've always been a very creative child. I always loved drawing and scribbling and painting as a child and doing all of the handicraft stuff. And it got beaten out of me a little bit when I started school, and it was devastating to me. So it took me a whole long journey to reconnect to that part of myself, because I was a painter, and I was getting a little bit, I was getting quite happy and confident in myself as a painter when I was a young adult. But then for whatever reason, I thought, oh no, I'm not good enough. And I just completely dropped it for like 20 years. And it was only after my dad had passed that he sent me signs and gave me messages to start painting sacred geometry. It was a little bit like him helping me to move through my grief. And that was just so healing to me and just so powerful. And ever since, I've just wanted to kind of like let that pour out into the world, and to remind people that creativity is always there for us. And then even, even Anthony writes about it, and I think it's just so powerful. So yeah, it's been a big part of my journey.
That's right. I would love to share that quote from Anthony. Let me go ahead and share my desktop for anyone who doesn't follow Medical Medium. You don't have to watch this podcast, but there are a lot of teachings and information that I like to share. Creativity plays a powerful role in our healing process. It brings freedom to your spirit and soul. It allows you to express yourself and release stagnant emotions that could be hindering your healing process. It is also a divine act, and knowing how and why this is the case can make a huge difference, a huge impact in how the healing powers work at bay upon your body, your soul, your mind. We often think of creative expression as things we like to do. We like to have fun, we like to dance, and that's a beautiful way to express creativity. We like to write. It's another powerful way. See, every way we're creative is miraculous. They're miracles. We like to paint. You may like to paint. There are beautiful ways of expressing creativity, but there's an important part of understanding something about creativity that everyone needs to know. And this fires off the healing process. This is what ignites the healing process in someone's soul, and the creative part of their soul, and the creative part of their brain, and the creative part of their bodies. What happens is we often are creative so someone can see it. We often like to paint in hopes that we can show that painting to others so they could get enjoyment and they could benefit from our creativity. But there are other ways of being creative. You don't have to always be concerned if it's going to be seen or not by the human eye, because creativity that we have inside of us, the creative response, the creative gift, the miracle that we all have, every one of us, the creative gift that we create and we have intentions of, is seen by the great divine. It's seen by God. It's seen by the angels. It's seen by the fairies. It's seen by the universe. It's seen by other souls that have crossed over. That's who our audience is. That's who is watching us to be creative. And a lot of us, it's stifled and it's suppressed. Our creative abilities have been suppressed by so many things we go through in life. Chronic illness can suppress our creativity. Our confidence can break and wane and wax over. Our confidence can really take a dive, and it's important to ignite that. When we leave here, down the road, we're going to see what we created. Everything we created, from the smallest form to its largest.
Awesome. I think it is so, so, so powerful. And it really opens us up to give that meaning back to creativity, because it has that power, that potency, and it's there for us to be explored and to be co-created with, like with the divine, but also like amongst each other. It's like we co-creating on this podcast right now is so much fun, and it flows, and and that creates an outpouring of positive energy. So it's just so good.
Yes, I see you have a painting behind you with a hummingbird and a flower. Can you tell us a little about that piece of art?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was inspired as well by an intuitive, and she shared a little bit about what Anthony says on hummingbirds. And I just happened to listen into that conversation online. And I've never seen a hummingbird in real life, as far as I remember, because they're not native to Europe, to Germany. I heard that woman say that Anthony said it was one of the most powerful beings of the animal kingdom on the planet, and it brings the messages from our hearts, like from us humans, to whichever places they need to go, and where they need to be heard. And I found that so beautiful, and I just wanted to capture that essence, that nectar that obviously they work with, in a painting, and I made it as vibrant and as punchy as I could. I don't know whether it comes out in that way on camera right now, but it's such a pleasure as well to paint such a beautiful bird. And yeah, so that was the reason why.
I have a card deck, and on the cover, I have a hummingbird also. And it's also my logo, you can see down below.
Yeah.
It plays such a powerful role in my life, especially because my dad also passed away. And whenever I see hummingbirds, which I get to see a lot of them here, I'm in California, and I just always feel like, I know he's not the hummingbird, but I always feel like he's able to send me messages through the hummingbirds. And so they just are so, I mean, they've always been meaningful to me, but even more so after I read what Anthony wrote about hummingbirds.
Yeah, so beautiful. Oh.
So, how did you find medical medium information, and why do you believe it to be true?
Some of my female coaches, co-coaches, they would tell me about Anthony, and I was at first not super open. And then they just said, "Oh, you need just to read up on him." And then I found a video clip in which he, very early days of his journey, and in which he explained how spirit came to him when he was a 4-year-old child. And then afterwards, I watched an interview with him, and those two clips, they gave me so much goosebumps and so much like deep, deep, deep intuition that this is truth. Like I was able to connect with that for me as inner truth in a way that I had not as deeply been able to connect with anything else. And I had been around the block in the health world already. So I knew when Anthony was giving me all of this information, or like us in his books and in his articles online at the time, all of the answers to all of this kind of like string of how my health journey went, he could explain. Basically, when reading the book, it was like at the time only the first book was out. It just came out, and it explained exactly like from start to finish what I'd been through, and no other health coach or doctor or practitioner had been able to give me all of these puzzle pieces, including the solution. So it just resonated on a very, very, very deep level. And then I applied it, and right away I got results. And of course, not everything resolves within just like a week or a month or a year, but everything started to improve. And I'd never seen that with anything else I tried. So because my journey had been so extensive, it's like I could not do anything else than trust, because it was just so obvious as well, on top of the intuitive feeling that I got.
Is it easy to get wild blueberries and all the supplements that he recommends where you are?
It is now. It was not in the beginning at all. Like the first few years were really tricky. I had just moved from England to Germany when I started with Medical Medium. It was tricky back then, but it is so much easier now, because we've got actually a huge community in Germany that does Medical Medium. I think it's one of the biggest in the world, and we even have a Medical Medium festival. And it's just taken off in such a big way. And I have actually friends that live just in the very next town, like 7 kilometers away, who also do medical medium in the entire family. And which is, we meet up for garden parties and medical medium evenings and cookouts and all that kind of stuff. So we're very lucky.
That sounds like so much fun. When I was creating this show, I wanted to find practitioners from around the world who could teach us how to have creativity or do whatever they do in their field in order to keep a light heart. So before this interview, you and I had a brief chat, and we came up with this idea of doing watercolor painting with wild blueberries. So for anyone watching, we'd love for you to follow along. Nina's going to teach us how to use intuitive art in our lives to play more and have more creativity. Could you let everyone know what supplies they need, and then they can pause this and come back and paint with us?
Absolutely. So you technically don't need any fancy art supplies. We try to make it even more fun, Lisa and I, today, by having a little bit of wild blueberry juice at hand. We know it's super precious and it should be in our bellies and not on a painting, but we just had to, play a little bit with it. Or you could, like anything that you have at home, any stationery, any markers, pencils, pens, colored pencils, watercolors. Actually, I use a lot of watercolor for this one. And I also have used a little bit of like thickly brewed hibiscus and rosehip tea just to get those frequencies in there. Obviously, those pigments, they're not going to last. They will turn a little bit dirty. So it is a little bit of shame to waste it, but it's also fun to know and to bring that aspect in. And otherwise, I'm using watercolor. You can use anything that you have at home that makes a mark. I even collected some little flowers from the meadow to just, put them as little stamps, as, expressive marks on there. So anything that speaks to you, because this is going to be intuitive, this is going to be fun, opening up your heart with the outcome of just having fun.
Let's go ahead and give you a moment to set up, because I think you're going to show us on your easel how to paint. And for anyone who wants to follow along, just hit pause, go get your supplies, and come back. I know for me, I've got a container with wild blueberry juice and a little paintbrush and a couple different markers with gold, silver, and purple. So Nina, go ahead and set up, and we'll just cut right to that, where you're going to teach us how to use intuitive art to keep a light heart.
I'm so excited for this, and I hope you are too. I just wanted to say, if you are painting along with this on a video or via the audio version, just make sure that you have your painting flat, your paper flat. I only have it in this kind of like way because it's easier for me to demonstrate it that way. But for you, it will be much better if you have it actually flat, because we're going to work with a lot of water and liquid pigments. So that's more ideal. And like I already said, with intuitive painting, it's all about being lighthearted and just doing what is fun for you in the moment. So we're not creating a masterpiece, we're creating something that is fun, that is flowing, regardless of how it's going to look like afterwards. So I'm just going to jump right in. I'm going to use a big brush. And you can just use whatever you have, whatever kind of like takes your fancy in the moment. Perfect. And we're just going to wet it a little bit in water. And we have already our pigments at hand. So you might have watercolors, you might have maybe some hibiscus tea, or maybe even some wild blueberries, wild blueberry juice. Exactly. Now, we don't want to use maybe too much. We know it is a very precious substance. So we're going to mix it a little bit with watercolor. And please do so in the way that you have a lot of fun with it. So just going to jump right in, pick up some of the juicy juice. It's so amazing. And we're not gonna be precious here for the moment, and we're just gonna paint. We're just gonna load up our paintbrush, and we're gonna create some marks. And here, you're gonna see some drips, and it's just there to make us have a light heart, to enjoy the colors. If you're painting flat, you can actually sometimes tilt your paper up a little bit, and then that will create those lovely drips. I hope that you can see them. If not, I'm gonna create some extra large ones. And this is how it's going to look like. But don't be too disappointed if you're now painting with wild blueberry juice, which obviously we're doing right now, but eventually the color will fade. So obviously that's not going to be a painting that will last. We are using this just to have fun with the beautiful extracts and elixirs that Medical Medium has gifted us with, and just to bring that into our creative process a little bit. And here, see these gorgeous strips. We really kind of like love them when we do watercolor, and it's just a lot of fun. Just maybe if you're using wild blueberry juice, be mindful of your carpets. We don't want anyone ruining their home furniture with that. But other than that, you can just go for it. And what we're creating here now, we're creating a little bit of an angelic wing, kind of like outline. If you want to, of course, you can kind of like sketch that a little bit beforehand, or you can just do it like me, more or less on the go. And, just make a little bit of a mark here and there. And there you can maybe, if you zoom in as well, you can see the gorgeous drips and the patterns that start to form with watercolor. And we're just going to go for it. We're just going to totally let our intuition guide us. And we're not going to think about how it's going to look like at the very end. And we're creating basically a expressive background to our angel wings, right? And there you can already see the shapes, and you can hold the brush in various ways. You know, you don't always have to like do it like that, like you hold a pen and do it in a very fine way. You can really like take the end of the handle and really be kind of like expressive with it. Just have fun, look at the beautiful, gorgeous color as we layer the white blueberries on top. And we also have more. So let's go for a little more. Let's go for hibiscus tea. So my paintbrush is a little bit large for that. So I'm just going to switch to a smaller one. And we're just going to wet it a little bit in water and then push it into the hibiscus rosehip tea. It's a beautiful red Bordeaux wine color.
So you brewed that tea ahead of time and with boiling water, or did you just put the tea bag in water and let it sit?
Yeah, just hot water, letting it sit for a little while. Doesn't have to be cool entirely. Just maybe not using super hot tea. It's probably not a good idea. But other than that, and see if I glaze that, that's what we call glazing, when you already have something underneath and then you glaze a thin layer of another color on top, and that creates those gorgeous kind of like this gorgeous play with the light and makes it a little bit more vibrant even. And it's just so much fun to allow the divine just to paint with you, you know, however you want to see it. And also before we started this, I've asked the angels to guide us and accompany us. And, you know, the very beautiful thing is that Anthony actually says quite a lot about creativity, including that the angels actually follow our every step, our every paint kind of like stroke when we paint. I mean, isn't that amazing? I never heard that before from anyone. And it just, you know, obviously being an artist, it touched my heart so much. So, okay, we're having some ribs here, just cleaning that up. And now we already have kind of like a little bit of a base layer for the background of our angel wings. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, and we're just going to pick up a few more colors. And I have laid them out. I have laid my watercolors out here on a little glass table tray. And just going to pick up a super vibrant pink, just because we can. And you're just going to pick whichever colors take your fancy, because that's also something about intuitive painting. Colors speak to us. They have that different frequencies. And even though we can assign specific meaning and, you know, yeah, just meaning to different colors, I also feel it depends on the moment and how you feel on what a color does for you. And so now we're just going to start maybe laying out the feathers and again, being really expressive with it, using broad brush strokes.
I'm following along here, Nina, and just painting on my desk.
Perfect.
I don't have watercolors, but I'll get them. But so I'm just using the wild blueberry, and I have I have a silver and a gold marker.
Perfect. You can use those as well.
But I love that pink. That pink and purple looks beautiful. So I will have to get some watercolors.
Awesome. Yeah. You know what? Whatever you have, you don't need watercolor specifically. You don't need like artistic grade materials. Obviously, I'm using what I have around the studio, but there are so many ways, and you can use everything: markers, pencils, pens, charcoal, pastel, everything that is available. And the more that you have, the more expressive sometimes you can get with it, but also sometimes the more limited you are in what you have, the more exciting things can actually happen on the canvas or on the paper sometimes too. So that's sometimes actually not a restriction, but something that can expand you into more creativity. So let's get on and get some more paint on the canvas. And what I also love doing, and that is a little bit easier to do when you're actually painting flat, because we're using a lot of color here, I sometimes spray it, and thereby again creating a lot of kind of like intuitive, quote unquote, random effects, a lot of beautiful drips, and then it all looks softer and yeah, just more smooth and expressive as well.
So that was just water in a spray bottle?
Yeah, that was just a fine mist spray bottle, just water, and you just going with it wherever you want to go. And actually, if you're working flat, it's even more perfect, because as you will see, painting in this way, it will be a bit messy and it will not be as pretty as if you have it lying flat, because when you have it flat, then you can do more stuff with it. But here, obviously, because of gravity, everything gets pulled downwards. So this is really just to kind of like to show you. And because we have so much more colors on offer here, I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of a turquoise, and I've mixed it into a tiny bit of purple, and that creates that beautiful, almost cobalt teal color that is it has quite a lot of depth. And we can add more shadows to our wings. And again, just, working from the shoulder, not necessarily like doing like that, but really like being expressive at pulling things down in this way. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just about the fun of it. Okay, and we'll do the same thing for the other wing. Just pulling in some depth. And you can be so creative with all of the materials, because you could even go outside and create your own pigments from the earth, maybe in the forest, or from different ashes that you might be able to find somewhere in the forest. So there's so many ways. So even if money is a thing for you, you want to put all of your money into supplements, then you can just like make them your own, or use any kind of tea as well. It is so easy. And now I would say we pick up a little bit of, I've got a little bit of gold here, so why not go for it? And earlier I went outside into the meadow, and sadly it is evening now, so the flowers, the flower petals have closed now. I'm just trying to open them up a little bit. They want to go to bed and I pick them. But anyways, I'm just going to put a little bit of gold onto them. And the way I do it is really just picking up a little bit of paint with a brush, and you could do that with watercolor, with acrylics, with anything that you have, and just find out how that will look like if we stamp that on the canvas. Just a little bit of mark making from Mother Nature, and we can blend it a little bit and pull it out and really use the flower as a little bit of a paintbrush.
So I grabbed a cotton ball because that's what I had at home, or I guess I could use a sponge to try to do different markings.
Excellent, absolutely. I think a cotton ball is a really beautiful way to make marks there, because it's beautiful and soft and fluffy. those are the tips that I wanted to share. And I know that we only have limited time. So I hope that this was helpful and a lot of fun to create for you.
So helpful and so fun. I hope you all at home enjoyed doing a little intuitive artwork. And if you didn't do it today, schedule a little time later on in the week or this month to do a fun little project. And it doesn't have to be these exact angel wings. It could be something else that you're inspired to do. But Nina will make sure to take some pictures and show these. But I love this exercise, and thank you for teaching us.
You're so welcome. I loved it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so would you like to sit down and do the rest of the interview?
Yes, I think that would be better.
Here's a quote from Life Changing Foods by Anthony William on wild blueberries. Emotional support. Wild blueberries have more inspiration to offer us than even the best motivational speakers on the planet because they mend us on an emotional level. Wild blueberries strengthen the very fabric of who we are so that we won't be susceptible to punishment, rejection, scorn, humiliation, devastation, and degradation. If you've struggled with feeling criticized, depreciated, discredited, mistreated, or neglected, this is a holy healing food for you. Lastly, we all hear a lot of talk about having the right mindset to attract abundance, shaping our thoughts and actions to manifest the lives we want. This can be very helpful. A person who feels positive is more likely to make choices that lead her or him to more positivity. Sometimes, though, the subject tears us down. The last thing someone who's sick, suffering, or in otherwise unfortunate circumstances needs is to feel like they somehow created, attracted, or brought it upon themselves. If you want to know one of the secrets to manifesting abundance, it's the wild blueberry. I know, that's not what you'd expect, and yet it's true. These little berries are that powerful. When you are striving for anything, when you want to live a life of bounty and blessings, turn to wild blueberries and watch the magic happen. I just love the fact that we could paint using wild blueberries and to infuse that frequency or energy into the artwork. That was a really fun thing to do.
Yeah, I loved it as well.
Okay, so now I would love to find out from you, what is your favorite medical medium book?
Exactly the one that you just quoted from. This one is the one that I frequent most, and I use so many teas from the herbal sections all the time. And I feel every time I read it, I get even more out of it. That sometimes, I missed maybe the first couple of rounds, but that's with all of the books. And I also love the chapter that you just, excerpted from, because that is just so powerful. So yeah, it's the Life Changing Foods book for me.
What is your favorite medical medium recipe at the moment?
Oh, I love the empanadas, and I love them with a mushroom, onion, garlic filling, just to make it a bit more like anti-strep.
Delicious. Favorite medical medium spiritual tool?
Yeah, definitely working with the angels and the future self healing that he does. I think that's really powerful.
Do you have a favorite medical medium quote?
Simply just the quote, I work for God, I work for the light. I say that so often, like even during painting, or I use that as a quote to collage onto paintings sometimes as well, and then I paint over it, so that frequency is on there. I just love that so much. And just like the word light, just those two tiny tools, like they are just so much more potent than almost like anything I've learned before, like in the spiritual world. I think they're just so powerful and helpful, and I use them all the time. So yeah, it's those two.
I was sharing with you that I have this affirmation card deck, and one of the cards in there is saying the affirmation, I work for God or light or for good. And you say that when you open a door. So every time you go through a door, you say, I work for God, I work for light. And that's exactly what he teaches in his book.
Oh, that is so perfect. I love that.
If you could ask Anthony or Spirit of Compassion one question, what would that be?
That is such a tough one because there's so many questions. I guess I would filter it down to what can we do right now in every single moment to create new earth and to open up the full potential of humanity, of each individual in the best, most possible way, like through God, with the angels, all of that.
What would your present day self tell your younger self?
Go find Anthony and implement the protocols like right now. I would tell her that, but I would also tell her to love herself unconditionally, that she's perfect exactly as she is. She's got so much value exactly as she is, and to know that everything is possible for her.
Incredibly powerful. Do you know what your name means and how it relates to your purpose?
Um, I don't actually. I've never really included my name, the whole purpose finding thing, to be honest.
So one of the things that I do as a consciousness coach is I help align people with their purpose. And I had a really powerful reading myself the first time I did an Akashic Records reading. And I was told when I asked, what is keeping me from achieving my purpose? And I was told, go look up the meaning of your name. So I looked up the meaning of my name, Lisa, and it means abundance. And I got a lot of other information about how I could use that in my Purpose Plus. But one of the interesting things that I found out, so Nina is actually also my sister's name. And I don't know a whole lot of Nina's, but when I was looking it up for you, I saw that Nina has several origins and meanings depending on the culture. So in Spanish and Italian and Russian, it means little girl or grace. And in Native American languages, Nina means mighty warrior. And then in some other languages, it means goddess of fire or ocean goddess. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And I was just curious if any of those things landed and had meaning to you.
Oh yeah, it does actually. It really does. Yeah, I know that I can have. I am very interested in the part where you said either the goddess of fire or of the ocean. I know I have both elements within my sphere quite a lot, and I can oscillate between the two quite a bit, I think. So that really resonates. And yeah, I really love that, because grace is always something that, it's not that easy to embody that as a human being in a crazy world. And I think we all can, work towards that, but it's definitely something that resonates and that, is definitely on my embodiment list and, strive towards list.
I loved how you shared the story of that when you were a little girl, you didn't really embrace art and that you were, you kind of suppressed that. And now that you have gone on your journey, you fully embrace what you're doing and you do it with such grace. And so I just wanted to share that with you. I thought that was like such a beautiful tie-in. And I know we just met, but that's the message that I received for you.
That is so beautiful. And actually, it ties in with even more of what you said about like the strong warrior of like the Native American culture. And I've always been in love with Native American culture ever since I was a little girl. But I had no idea that there was this name and like it had a meaning and everything. But in order for me to claim me being an artist, it was quite a lot of like I had to go through a lot of fire, and I really had to bring out my inner warrior as well, and stand by me and really, go through so many challenges as we all have. But yeah, so it totally resonates. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. That means a lot.
I find it so amazing that our names do mean something. And in different cultures, people pay a lot of attention to what their name is and how they're naming people. And I just find it so fascinating whenever I do this with anybody, how it makes such an impact in the current moment, but also thinking about your past. And then as you were talking about this future exercise, how can you use that to take hold of your purpose and really go for it, to propel you into forward movement. And so one of the cards on my card deck is when you hear your name, you say the affirmation. So for you, it could be when someone says, Nina, you say, I am grace, or I am a warrior of fire, or I'm a warrior of ocean. or, whatever it is in that definition of your name. And so, people say your name all the time, and it's a wonderful way of affirming you and who you are.
Thank you so much. This is so brilliant. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
It's my pleasure. So now that we've gone through all these questions and got to know you a little better, and you've taught us some art, would you like to play a game?
Yes.
Okay, the game is called Would You Rather, and this is just silly fun, just to end the interview on a light heart. And the first question is, would you rather be able to control fire or water?
Oh God, fire.
Would you rather live on a beach or in a cabin in the woods?
Cabin in the woods.
Would you rather wear a wedding dress or a tuxedo every single day, or wear a bathing suit every single day?
Bathing suit.
Would you rather be unable to use search engines or unable to use social media?
Search engines.
Would you rather never be stuck in traffic again or never get another cold?
Never get another cold.
Would you rather be able to talk to land animals, animals that fly, or animals that live under the water?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think I'd go for under the water.
Would you rather have to read aloud every word you read or sing everything you say out loud?
I would sing, I think.
A
I
living
can't sing. I just can't, but whatever.
That's right. Who cares? But the angels will hear you when you sing, and so will your loved ones.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nina, for sharing your beautiful art with us. If anyone would like to find Nina, she's at mysticalchemy.art. And if you would like to subscribe to this podcast and watch or listen to more episodes, you can go to that's lisaoh.co. Thanks so much. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. This podcast and all related content are for informational purposes only and may include general information not specific to you. They are not intended to replace medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional for any medical concerns. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, and we are not responsible for any actions taken based on this information.